And pause.
How are you?
Whoops. All right. Good morning, everyone. Minutes are in draft form and will be available for us next week to review from the last meeting. Item number one is the opening bids for our surplus vehicles. So, Mr. Barr, I just want to give some background for the record on this.
Yeah.
Or Diane.
Sure, there's 5 bids. What we did, Mr. Chairman, is put all the vehicles, we brought them all up front.
Right.
And lined them up. We made appointments with several entities that called us that wanted to look at the vehicles. So we obviously brought the keys and you know, they can check it out. I don't know if they were gonna bid on all 5 or
Right.
one, or I'm not really sure.
Six vehicles.
Yes, I'm sorry, 6 vehicles, 5 bids.
5 checks. Okay. Alrighty, so. We'll start opening. I'll start, let me bring that to you.
The bid for the 2004 Chevy Silverado, $525 from Aaron Cortina.
Okay. We'll talk, Debbie.
We'll talk Chevy. Bid on all 6 of them.
Okay.
Individually, ranging from $470 up to $2360.
I just cut this bid and put pieces. Oh my God.
I'll get some tape,
Yeah,
we'll
we'll get
tape
some
it back
tape.
together.
I think I just cut this bid into pieces again. It needs to be taped together.
That's about 5,600 total.
Yeah.
So he'll,
Yeah. We'll get some tape for that one.
Yeah.
$500 for the 2015 Chevy Express from Arthur Foote. For that. Those came bid on 5 vehicles. $400 to $500 range.
Just enough to turn on the catalytic converters. Here we go, we got a little cute one here. I like this.
Is that from Elizabeth? I mean, that's what she said.
Yeah, I like this one. Wow. He's writing. Ernie Down.
He's the gentleman that went over yesterday.
Oh, he was the one that went over.
Yeah, he brought it in.
I think he bid on 4 of them. We're gonna have to look at that though. Okay, so why don't we have a motion to table these, and then we'll have administration look at them and
Yeah, I guess Diane and I'll look at
look
them,
at them and figure out.
because we can't have Dougie look at them.
Mm-hmm. I'll make them.
Rusty red plow truck.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That was one of them.
The rusty red plow truck.
That was one of them.
We've gotta keep this for.
Yeah, I know, that is awesome, I love that,
Frame that in.
I love that.
His
I hope you-
wife's-
I hope
His
you
wife's
win.
little post-it note.
I hope you win, one of them anyway, so.
Diane and I'll,
Can I ask a question? Do you have to accept, like, their bid in totality, or can you?
No, we can
choose-
separate.
we can
Like,
start.
if somebody has a higher bid, but it's a package one, you can take the individual one out.
Yeah.
So you can.
Yeah, that's the way we worded the bid,
I was
so.
just curious.
Yeah, nobody bid as a package, they just put individual prices, even the one that bid on all 6.
Great,
I think he needs to.
I made them.
Rusty, right?
so like a motion to table. All those, the motion has been moved and seconded, all those in favor of table, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the vote unanimous. Okay, let's talk about, move on to our capital improvement, program. We'd asked the administration to, Ray to meet with, various departments are trying to prioritize the request in a 6-year program. So we have, why don't we talk about the Ray,
Sure. So what I did, Mr. Chairman, is met with each department that had submitted a capital request and find out what they absolutely needed to do for the balance of this year, which is likely to trail over into next year.
right?
As an example, Mr. Chairman, I'm unclear whether we would be able to get the roof done up here, you know,
Time for the weather.
in time for the weather. So, I mean, we put it down as this year, but it's certainly likely to trail over into next year because we don't 100% know when they're gonna finish what they're doing up on the roof now. And obviously, one needs to be finished before we do the other. Also, Mr. Chairman, it makes every logical piece of sense to, bid the two roof jobs together.
Right, here in Hyder.
Here in Hyder, because, you know, we're likely to get a much better price if we do them both together. I know it's different types of roofing, but I would imagine that not, you know, there's companies that do both types.
Right.
So we'll do it something similar to the way we did the vehicles, you know, we'll have them bid on each thing, understanding that they might only get one or the other, or we'll just see how it goes.
So when I discussed this, with you earlier on, I had asked to make sure that all the life safety issues that we were faced with within the facilities were, given a high priority, so I'm assuming all the life safety code issues that we had.
They're given the highest priority, as well as, you know, concerns over IT.
Yeah.
You know, and what's been, and taking advice from Primex, our insurance company. You know, we're kind of in a precarious situation. Primex does insure us, but it's what they consider to be their biggest liability right now. So they're putting some amount of pressure on us to be sure that we're in compliance and not just relying on them for our mistakes, you know, to insure us. So they've sent people here, Paul Kapresky's gone there. So, you know, we were able to push some things off. I also, the largest thing was, Diane and I met with Doug yesterday and showed him the items. And basically, we included enough money for the switch that doesn't work at the jail.
Yeah.
But we took the generators and moved them into 2027, or it's not specified, it's just moved outside of
This next year, the first year.
well, the first 2 years, you know, 25 and 26. And the only reason we did it this way is because some of the projects, like I said, that start in 25 might very well lapse over into 26. Some of the projects that start in 24 will lapse over into 25, especially where we don't know how long. Let me take a step backwards. When we go out to bid, we'll certainly include in the bid spec how long it will take someone to do this project. Because we don't want to be in a situation where we get some, you know, we look at a bid and it looks favorable, and all of a sudden it's gonna take them a year to do it because they can't get the parts. You know, we have to factor that in. And because obviously in a lot of cases, we can't wait a year to get the parts, but that's some of the things that we've been faced with. So we'll have to specify that in the bid spec. So ultimately, the 16 million is now $6,579,750. And because all of these things will be done promptly, you know, this year, primarily next year, and maybe a little bit
Well,
the year after.
it'll trail off into 26.
Right. And chances are some of the 25 items will go into 26. But also, you know, when we put this all together, we also did an explanation sheet that talked about the items that were removed from the original document and the reason why they were removed. So we listed, you know, so we listed projects removed from the original CIP to be included in future operating budgets.
Right.
Remember some
Yeah, we talked
members of the
about that.
delegation wanted
Yep.
that. Projects to be addressed in 2027 and beyond. We listed those. Projects to be funded by the dispatch capital fund. We listed them, you know, there was a couple of those. And also Diane, I'll let Diane explain this, although I think it's pretty self-explanatory. There was questions about some items that if we did a 10-year bond, then they only, I think the.
Yeah, there was questions about the life expectancy based on the bond.
Yeah, but Diane, we talked to bond counsel.
Yeah.
If you remember, we had sent our whole capital list to bond counsel and
Right.
they had approved it. But we got a clarification. Go ahead, Diane.
Yeah, so I spoke to our bond counsel after the meeting because several representatives, you know, had questions about issuing bonds for 10 years for, you know, some assets that have useful lives
5
of
years,
5 and
right.
7 years. And I mean, we've done it in the past. It's not an uncommon thing to do. But I just, and bond counsel had reviewed everything, so I called them first thing on Thursday, and so I had a call this past Monday. And we took a look at everything, and she said, this is very common with CIPs with municipalities because there's such a range.
That's right.
And what they look at is when we structure the bond and the principal payments to make sure, like if you have 5-year useful life assets, that your principal payments in the first 5 years cover the cost of those assets.
Right.
So you are not borrowing money
Right.
longer
than, right.
longer than the useful life of the asset. And that's how we get around that. That's how we've done it in the past. And she said that's how they look at all bonds for CIPs. It's a very common practice. And it's something that, you know, there's an exercise that we go through for that. So, and so our CIP would be in compliance with a 10-year bond. She's looking at it. She was probably a 20-year bond for that matter, but you're looking at how you structure your principal payments. And I did just give an example of what an amortization schedule would look for a 10-year bond for this proposed CIP, this revised CIP. And if you look at the principal payments, the first 5 years, that will more than cover any of the projects that are 5 years, you know, below 10 years.
Right.
So,
Well, there's only a handful anyway.
yeah,
I think there's only a couple
Yeah.
in the new.
Yeah, because some of those were taken out and they're in the category of to be included in future operating budgets. So that's the response for those questions.
I understand everything you just said. I'm wondering whether we should dumb this down some more for them, because one of the things that they brought up was that they wanted to know year by year and when we were gonna do it in terms of timing. So maybe.
The problem is, Mr. Chairman, to give you an example, we're gonna do a lot of these things simultaneously.
I get it.
You know, we can't wait for one project to be done.
No,
and then
I
start the
understand
other,
that.
Or
I
it'll
understand.
never.
We gotta walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm talking about the people that were trying to get the vote for this thing, who for some reason think in one dimension. They're not capable of thinking in 2 or 3 dimensions, as far as I'm concerned, because they demonstrated that. So what I'm thinking is maybe we ought to have, I don't know if this even goes far enough. I don't think they'd understand that we're talking about this lasting at least a 12-month period, and it may fall off into, 15 months and 16 months. I think we need to be prepared for that if the question comes up, because they're only thinking, they're thinking very short term. They're going, okay, well, what's gonna happen within the next year? And what's gonna happen in the following year? I mean, that's what they were talking about. We all know that things happen, dynamics happen, there's product line issues, there's supply line issues, there's all these other issues that are, and I understand that. I deal with it all the time in my own business. Do we wanna break it down further, say that in the fall or in the winter, in the winter of 24, we're gonna try to put out these 6 projects, and then in the spring of 25, we're gonna try to do this group of projects. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it at least gives them some sense. Or maybe I'm just barking up the wrong tree. Maybe they'll grasp this. Go ahead, Greg.
To address that, Mr. Commissioner, it's been my experience, especially recently, with labor shortages and like you said, with supply line issues. Increased lead times are a real problem now. So for some of this equipment, the big equipment like the generators, we're
Right.
gonna need probably a year and a half lead time for them to actually build these units.
Yeah,
Right now, for replacement units, if we do have a catastrophic failure, we're looking at a year to a year and a half for most HVAC equipment. Thinking ahead, we're doing the best we can, looking forward to landing these within the time frame that we're putting down on this list. And we're starting as soon as possible, and we're speccing as tight as we need to be. But again, when these go out to bid, we have no control over availability, we have no control over vendors' help availability. We're really at the mercy of the vendors because these items are of
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
importance and they have such a high dollar amount, they
And
need
they're
to be done through that
specialty items.
process, correct?
so I guess with the 24 expense and 25 expense, we'll just leave it at that. And if they, I mean, I don't know how, I just don't know.
Well, I mean, we're happy to report to the executive committee, at every meeting,
Right.
where we are.
Yep.
Where we are on this program. I mean, that's not an issue. We're happy to do that. And like I said, we're likely to do a number of these things simultaneously.
Right.
Because we can't do one and then the other, and
Well, I get it.
it'll be going on forever, so.
Well, hopefully that will satisfy their concern again.
The 3.55% estimate on the interest, I assume that's a very conservative number. Have we been getting better numbers than that, or?
No, I mean, that is the number from our financial
Okay,
advisor.
all right.
Yeah.
But
Seems like we go out to bid, there's always that one bank that bids.
Well, this is gonna be interesting now because we started with a $16 million project. So something of that size for a bond issue, would probably go out to public sale.
Right.
Now we're getting to the 6 million mark. We may still go out to public sale, which means, we have to get rated and all of that. Or maybe we're reaching the threshold now where we could do a bank sale. But if we go to a public sale, the likelihood that our bank who gives us a bid wouldn't bid on, when it starts to get those higher amounts. And our financial advisor would look at the dollar amount of the project and determine to go out on the public market with a not so large project, you might not get as much
Right,
interest.
yeah.
the other
So he would be advising us at what point where we would
Right.
go to the banks
Right.
and do, accept bids from a bank like we do for our
Right.
grants, our short-term borrowing.
The other thing is that it would appear, because it's been quite some time since we've been rated. Because you don't really get rated until you sell a bond, that our rating is likely to be better than what it is now, which is also what factors into the thought that we could get it at 3.55.
Yeah, we had our financial advisor, they did an analysis of our credit for this fall. And so we're currently rated at an A3, and with everything, because they have our latest financial statements and whatnot, they were looking that we may be rated as an A1. And then, so then, you know, looking at the thresholds for an A1, like if we bought, you know, because there was a question asked, at what point, with regards to our debt limit, so we have a roughly a $340 million debt limit. We're at we're gonna be like at 2.4 million at the end of this year. So we're nowhere, I mean, we are nowhere near, but there was a question asked, at what point? You know, how much debt, do you have to incur? I think it was at one of the subcommittee meetings it was asked. And, I think it was, to get us, like, at the A3, we would have to borrow like a crazy amount of money, and it's like 100 million, you know, something. And we would still maintain our A3 at that
A3.
point. But when we're looking at something this size,
Yeah.
with our,
It's not gonna happen.
he's, you know, the analysts looked at, you know, probably an A1, so.
So, I mean, if you think about it, just numbers wise, with what we're carrying forward to 2025 and this 6 million, we're just slightly over 2%. Of our maximum, you know, of our
And
capacity.
after 2025, and we had given everybody the bond schedule, we drop off another bond.
Yeah.
That's, you know, principal payment of $200,000 a year, that drops off after 2005, that's 25. So, I mean, we don't have any long-term debt. Debt capacity is not an issue.
Yeah, capacity is not the issue.
No.
Yeah. Okay. I think one out to the list, you really question me now? Fine.
And Dougie's all set.
Crazy about taking the can down.
Yeah,
the
that's
road.
good.
Well, they wanted, you
Yeah, I know.
know, some members of the delegation want it both ways. First of all, they criticize you for kicking the can down the road, and then they want you to kick the can down the road.
Yeah, I know, that's-
So, kind of what you're going on there. Simple as that.
Leanne, how much is it gonna cost us to do this short term, the $6 million thing?
Well,
versus
if we go out and have to get rated and everything, we're talking about $57,000. Whether it's a you know, it's a 10-year bond for a 3-year project, and let's say in 3 years from now, we have to do another CIP, it's probably be more expensive in 3 years, right? Everything is.
Yeah, so we don't know.
So the
with-
$57,000
Right, I'm sorry.
$57,000 is a one-time thing, whether we do 6 million or 16 million.
Yeah,
If we do it in pieces, then.
Well,
it's
it
gonna
might,
cost us-
it lowers a little bit due to the, dollar amount, but we're looking roughly around that to go out to public sale.
you know, that's why we did a 6-year capital plan, was to only have to pay that fee once.
So
But,
this is not really.
well, it's up, I mean, the delegation has to make the decision, so,
Yeah,
but that's why
because there's the
we've
cost
done
for
a
our
6-year
financial
plan.
advisor
Yeah.
for the public sale, there's the cost of bond counsel, and then there's, you know, we need to be rated.
If it goes to, now this amount may not be large enough to go to a public sale, it might.
I think we'd still have to be rated. I
Well,
mean, the banks
right,
are
well,
going to
well,
want it.
rating it,
Yeah.
makes sense anyway,
Yeah.
because. it's-
It would appear from, you know, part of the services that we pay for with our financial advisor is for them to do an internal rating. Really no different than what we listened to about a month ago with our health insurance proposal. Remember that entity,
Right.
you know, looked at what we could possibly save if we went self-insured and those
Right.
kinds of, and what we can expect for renewal and those. This is really, I mean, it's a totally different subject, but it's
similar, it's similar. in
the concept is
methodology,
similar.
Right. Well,
So I move to approve the revised 2024 to 2026 capital improvement plan in the amount of $6,579,750.
I left it else, I got.
already, and a motion, any further discussion on regarding this? So when will we know, Diane? I mean, you've been in touch with them because this would be a private or a public sale, they're gonna rate us one way or another, right?
Yeah, when you issue bonds, yeah, the banks will.
What's our timing if this is approved, if it is approved?
Well, you know, then we've been talking about issuing bans, so that's
Right.
something completely different.
Well, we're talking about issuing a ban because
An interest
our
rate.
financial advisor says January is always the time for the lowest interest rate.
Yeah.
And if, you know, it might not sound like a lot, if you can go from 3.55 to 3.25.
It's a lot.
That's a lot
Yeah.
over the course of 10 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're likely to do a
Have a
ban
ban,
for what we
right.
would need to
Yeah.
carry us through
Through
that,
So that's
to that January timeframe.
They're also, the Fed's also talking about dropping rates, so that might
Mhm.
play into
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's another
Yeah.
piece of it.
Piece of it.
Yeah, all indications are the rate, there will be a rate decrease, so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You know, in all fairness, Mr. Chairman, historically, the Fed's lowering the rate helps more with the TANs than it does with the bonds.
Yeah.
And you can see that, right, with, if you're going to invest money say you're going to invest money in CDs, you will notice that there's a substantial better CD rate if you're doing 6 months or 11 months than it is if you're doing 12 months or 15 months.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that's what the market is looking at also.
We're ready. Okay, well, any further questions or discussion from my colleague? Not hearing all those in favor of the motion was offered by Commissioner Watson, because of saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the vote unanimous. Okay, so we gotta have, your motion did include the issuance of the bond.
No, I move to approve issuance of bonds, the amount of $6,579,750 to fund the 2024 to 2026 capital improvement plan.
Okay,
Second.
okay. I think we beat this one to death, so I'll just call the question. All those in favor of adoption, give saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, vote unanimous. Alrighty. Thank you, Doug. for all
Thank you,
guys'
Mr. Commissioner.
work and all your department heads, for your input on this. Alrighty, we got upcoming events.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Ray. I think we're going to do the inspection of jails being inspected right by our numerous partners this week, right?
Honestly, detention oversight, the Nakamoto group to do health inspection, as well as the Bureau of Prisons are all conducting inspections this week.
Well, you can add me to the list.
Sounds good.
Bring your white gloves.
Gonna bring my white gloves, the dust gloves, right?
I mean, we have some initial information, on the group that is inspecting medical, and, it would appear that that group has found no deficiencies in medical.
That's good. Is that preliminary?
No, I mean, they're gone.
So they have left. They do word it as a preliminary finding because they have to type everything up.
Right.
However, no life safety issues were brought up. I had a healthy discussion about the way in which we monitor individuals who are on suicide watch. We are meeting that standard. Specifically, they said there are times in which it's more than 15 minutes where we go and we do a round to see what they're doing. I tried to explain to them the importance of not having a routine, that randomness is actually something that's important to ensure safety. I also talked to them about the fact that during some of those times, we make notes, and those notes indicate that it's because we're serving chow. We are doing medication pass, things like that.
Yeah.
So while they understood the position, they said the standard says this. So we will make efforts to make sure that we intertwine our round to be included when we're doing lunch, dinner, breakfast service, medication pass, that type of stuff.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is those really aren't
No,
medical.
those are, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, those are,
my wheelhouse.
those are Chris's wheelhouse as opposed to our medical department's wheelhouse.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Questions regarding the inspection process that's going on? No? Okay, we got old and new business. Do you want us to just recess this meeting so you guys can have time to look over the bids? We can come
I
back
could
up.
probably put this together.
Diane can put that
I can
together.
work on that anyway.
Okay, well, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just to express a bit of my frustration, I've been looking at the Secretary of State's office, and I didn't know if anybody had any insight. There is there is a primary race for county commissioner I think is that District 3?
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
Three.
Yeah, do we know the results of that race at all?
Well, I don't, there's no official numbers that I'm aware of, but based on what
Cause it's
I know you've been busy, but and you haven't probably had a chance to look at this, but WMUR indicated that, Mr. Levitt beat Mr. Newton. And
I didn't think to look at WMUR, to be honest with you.
That's the thing
I keep looking at the
Secretary of State.
the Secretary of State's
I
website,
didn't know
you know?
that.
Yeah, so. So Mr. Levitt will be challenging you apparently.
I have a question. Which one is the rusty red blood truck?
There's a Chevy pickup. There's a
The
Chevy
Chevy
pickup.
Silverado,
The 390. Oh, no, that's the address. Oh,
his
sorry.
address.
Yeah,
We could ask Dougie left, we could ask.
No,
him.
I
Chevy
know, I
Silverado.
know these vehicles.
It's the only,
Yeah,
it's the only,
it's the red Chevy Silverado. It's the only vehicle with a plow that is part of the process.
The rusty.
It is.
I love that.
It is rusty.
That's the best bid we've had in a long time. Been a long
Something
time.
new.
Yeah, I do it on a piece of paper. I love the old way of doing business. Usually when you get something fancy in a bid,
Just some
and it's
sticky
this thick,
notes.
it costs you money.
Yeah.
You know? You get some sticky notes.
I'll put that on my list for when I go shopping.
Yeah. Right. Okay, well.
So we don't know when the Secretary of State's gonna post anything. I keep looking. If we have any idea, I can stop, you know,
I had called,
cause usually it's by now, right?
I called the Secretary of State's office to ask them when they were gonna be certifying the results. There's unlike in Rockingham County, you know, there's a commissioner's race down there that's within
Six votes.
6 votes of each other. As president of all the county commissioners, they had called me, a bunch of my colleagues from around the state had called me to tell me what was going on in different counties, and like, as if I don't have enough things to worry about, I gotta worry about that. But they told me they wouldn't certify the election results till the end of next week.
We have the result up on the Secretary of State's website.
What's that?
So the results are up on the Secretary of State's website now.
Oh, they are?
They have, must
Oh,
have.
I didn't
Well, it
look
must have
today.
happened this morning.
Yeah,
Must have happened this morning. I didn't look today because we're
I looked last night.
it's our big 2 days at Riverside for,
They did the
recertification of all our
I
staff.
just looked, it's got the Excel spreadsheets on them.
Really?
Usually they don't certify until the entire process, if somebody wants to challenge and have a recount vote.
Right.
So you have to give so much time and then there's so much time after that they have to do that. And so that could be why.
They
the
told me yesterday, directly, their legal counsel, that you had the Friday to ask for a recount.
Recount, so that's why.
It does say they're unofficial. But I don't know, like the
So
website
we can
has,
look them up.
Yeah.
like the Excel spreadsheets are there for some of them, but maybe not all of them.
Okay.
Maybe the links are just not working because they must have just posted it.
The
Thank
ones
you.
I saw last night was just the governor and the congressional races.
Maybe that's-
They didn't have the counties, they didn't have any of the state reps as of last night. I don't know if they did.
Oh, maybe that's why the links aren't there.
There's no links.
Right, okay.
Right, you don't see the PDF file, there's no
Yeah.
PDF file
I see what
attached
you're
to it.
saying.
Yeah,
And they told me yesterday they wouldn't have them done till the end of next week.
Really?
That's what they told me. Yeah, but you have to ask for, but you only have till this Friday to ask for a recount. So it's obvious that these laws that were messed with by the present administration need to be changed, because it seems to me, you certify the results of the election, then you give people, 24, 48, 72 hours to file for a recount after the certification process has taken place.
Right.
To require people to ask for a recount when they don't even know what the numbers are, haven't posted, they have no idea, doesn't make any sense. Just makes no sense. this was never operated this way in my 50 years of being in public life. Only in the last 2 years with these changes, these draconian changes they made, nobody gives any thought to any of this stuff. They just come up with it.
Right legislation. Yeah.
And then they said, if you ask for a recount by Friday, okay, after next Monday, you can't withdraw it.
After you get the real results, you can't.
After you get the real results, you can't withdraw
Oh my
your,
God,
you
that's
can't,
insane.
you can't withdraw your your recount request.
Oh my God.
Whatever. It's okay. We'll go at it. We'll just keep going at it. Can't withdraw your recount.
Well, maybe that's something that can be taken up in the next legislation.
They gotta straighten that out. That's something,
God, you mean that's screwed up more?
You know, it just seems to be easier if they simply say, once the vote's certified, you have X number of days
days,
to do it.
right, to do it. Right, they ought to give you 72 hours or something after the vote's certified to be able to
That's, I've highlighted.
file for a recount.
No, okay.
That's for people that don't want a jury.
Right, yeah, well, yeah, that's for people who don't wanna control people's lives.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. But anyway, that's what they told me yesterday. That's what the legal counsel told me yesterday, which I thought was very interesting. I had a minor debate with him on the phone saying, this doesn't make any sense. He didn't argue with
Does
me.
that all make sense? Jen?
Yeah, it doesn't have to make sense. Well, anyway. All right, we got any other old and new business?
Mr. Chairman, if you wanted to, postpone
Yeah.
the delay, Diane's done the
Yeah, sure.
numbers out.
Already?
Yeah.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
Yeah, sure.
It was pretty easy, actually.
All I want is Mr. Downing get any bids here?
He did. Yeah,
You get the rusty truck, did he, what? Look at
he
that.
got the rusty truck.
He did. With the plow one?
He did.
Okay,
He
well,
was the highest bidder on a red rusty
on the
truck.
red rusty truck and the hilltop.
He came in here yesterday asking about it. Dee met him. He's a very nice gentleman. Yeah.
I'll ask the vice chairman then to make a motion to award these. Want to do them individually or, I mean, we'll do them as a, we can just have one motion to.
Alright, so, 2004 Chevy Silverado 2500, winning bidder is Ernie Downing, $825. And the next five are all won by Hilltop Chevrolet, 2008 Pontiac Grand Prix 610, 2010 Ford Explorer 470, 2010 Mazda 3 680, 2011 Chevy Express 3500 $1,110, and the 2015 Chevy Express 3500 $2,360.
All right, thanks, man.
All right,
I'll get
I got a motion by vice chairman, a second. Okay,
So it looks like made about $6,000.
there we go.
And that'll go into miscellaneous.
Okay, so I got a motion, it's been moved and seconded, to award those bids, all those in favor of adoption, give it saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, I vote unanimous for those.
We had a ceremony when we presented that to.
Yeah.
Who wants to call? Mr. Downing?
Now
He wants,
He
he owns the.
Yeah, can we be there when we hand them the keys?
I'm gonna bring a broom with
Photo op.
tractors down the road so we can clean the parking lot with the rust. Rust off the parking lot with the
Leaf blower works easier.
Yeah, hey, at least we got our money's worth out of them, right?
I think it should be on next month, next week's agenda personally.
Yeah. What, pictures of them hauling them off?
It's a perfect farm truck.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Speaking of farming, the farmer's out,
Haying.
haying now.
I
It's,
saw all of this equipment coming in.
Yeah.
It's just, I wanted to stop and take a picture. It looks so cool.
it does, I mean, just
What
the
a backdrop
precision
for
of
the
it,
company.
it is.
Yeah.
He's done a beautiful job.
Yeah, he really
He's,
has.
That's his fourth, it's his fourth run for getting hay,
Yeah,
right?
that's what he-
Yeah.
yeah.
That's exceptional.
And when you see
Yeah.
everything like out there, like with the bales and everything,
Yeah.
it's just so quintessential New England,
It
especially
is.
this time of
It
year.
is.
It's really very, very beautiful out
It
there.
should be on our.
He picked it, obviously he knows what he's doing because he knew we weren't gonna get any rain this week. So he's been, he cut it and then he flipped it and.
And it's such a beautiful year too for wildflowers.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see all the wildflowers out there and everything, so
We
we
call them
left
weeds,
them.
right?
Yeah, out in the field though,
They're beautiful, I know it.
Yeah, not in my yard, I
Yeah.
don't have that in my yard, but.
It's funny that you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we
Did you
can
take
leave
a
it.
picture?
Is that, yeah,
This is from, 2016, but
oh,
it's a picture that I snapped.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
yeah, once he bails everything, we'll have to take some pictures.
All right, yeah, we'll hang on the wall for prosperity.
You know,
It's a
Mr. Chairman,
beautiful property.
the concept of it is not to really make money. The concept of it is
Right.
to stop it from growing wild.
Right, make it a forest.
Yeah, make it in the forest, so.
Alrighty, so, we got any other old or new business today? None? All right, we've got, oh, we had a sheriff's primary as well. Mr. Bauer.
Well, that much I saw, you know, that was well publicized, so. You know, my suggestion, Mr. Chairman, because the sheriff's department had played such an integral part in our jail transportation, that perhaps we should consider inviting the candidates in at some point prior to the
No question.
general election to determine, you know, their willingness to continue the, you know, the transport, which generates, you know, nearly $8 million in revenue for the county.
Right. That's a very good suggestion. Alrighty, so. Well, item 6, questions and comments from the public related to the agenda. Okay, Susan, I guess that's you today.
Yeah, it's always me. I have a question about the CIP and what the rationale was to reduce it down to a 3-year plan. And then I kind of was intrigued by Ms. Rollo's comment of, what we have to pay when we go to bond this. Why we are not putting forth a 3-year plan and a 6-year plan to the delegation, and explaining that it's, let's say for argument's sake, another $55,000. If we don't do it as one chunk versus doing it as 2 chunks, and I'm just kind of
I
curious.
can answer that. Well, I guess I felt when I put this together that we were following the lead that the no votes had suggested they wanted to look for. Now, understanding that we identified, you know, in the attached sheet, those items that, you know, we delayed or, if anybody, wants to add items on the front end, they can certainly do that. So it's not a hard and fast list. It's what I thought from my listening to the no votes, that it was something that they would support. However, if there is, you know, some of the people who voted no want to add things to the list, you know, maybe what we could do to make it a little clearer, Diane, is to, you know, the sheet that we have that lists, we could add the cost of each one of those items.
Sure.
You know, so the sheet would go a little bit further, and that way, if someone said, well, geez, I'd really like to add this, they would know what the cost was, so, because we would put the cost in that sheet.
Yeah.
So, you know, based on your suggestion, Mr. Rice, we could do that, and some people might.
You guys have done 6 years, and honestly, I was a little shocked to see it cut in half. I'd like to, and you guys have already voted on it. But I think that perhaps giving them 2 options and explaining that other piece, the bonding cost. If we do it for 3 years, we get settled with roughly $50,000. If we just do one whole 6-year bonding.
We did that.
Is that?
We did that. We
No,
told
I
them
think what they were really looking for was to know what year things were going to happen in, but I could be completely wrong,
Well,
so.
that's flexible, depending on the.
Yeah, if they wanna,
Supply.
if they wanna add
They wanna
things.
add the columns, I suppose we can look at the 27, 28, but it's not worth the paper it's written on. I mean, you can put it out there as a
Well,
plan.
this isn't maybe worth the paper it's written on either,
Well,
so.
We don't know.
we don't know.
We don't know what the delegation will do.
Yeah, I thought that they wanted us to do it on an annual basis.
Maybe I missed that, but that, okay.
I mean, maybe, but
That's what they
I'm
said.
I'm sure the no voters are gonna vote no on this too. I'm convinced of it. I don't think it doesn't make any difference. We could have
Well,
it, we
that's
could
a
have,
bit of an attitude, George.
well, it's a
Well,
facts.
it's kind of.
It's not an attitude, it's a facts. Okay, so we'll just see.
Well, we hope
Yeah.
that's not the case,
Right,
because some of
right.
these items are absolutely critical.
That's correct.
So, but what we can do is on that list, we can put the costs.
Put the
in.
cost associated with it. And then, I mean, we've reduced it for 3 years.
Like, cause one of these days, we really need to address the generator issue.
Yes.
You know, I know generators tend to last a long time, but, you know, a couple of the generators are 30 years old. You know, what I heard from the ladies and gentlemen that voted no was, well, if it dies,
It does, yeah.
you know, come back to us and,
Yeah.
you know, we'll fund it.
But it doesn't work that way.
Well,
The system doesn't work.
the timing of it is
Right.
such that it makes it difficult, because government, you know, tends to work kind of slowly because of all the notices and all the subcommittee meetings we have and executive committee and full delegation. And I mean, right now, as I think Dougie had mentioned, we're still operating off of, we're looking for and can't seem to find with any kind of expediency, a radiator for our old generator over to jail, and we've rented one, you know, that you can see it, it's just sitting out there in front of the jail. But, you know, we do think that that's gonna be remedied, but we'll list the prices down, and if anybody thinks that any of these items are things to add, nothing would make me happier.
Yeah, I mean, we could always add we could always add the 3 other year columns and place things into them.
I would love to, I'm just thinking that give them 2 options, okay? And so that they can see it, okay?
Yeah, we can do that.
And might not go anywhere, but
I think we have time to put the other years in there too. I mean,
I would like to get this out promptly, because Diane's going on vacation.
Yeah, and Janet, we don't have a ton of staff here, so.
Yeah.
Well, I think the notice, everything is going out on Monday.
What do you wanna do, Robert?
Well, I think if we just itemize the items that were cut out with the dollar amount,
They
and
wanna
that's
add 'em in?
and then if they wanna add them in, they can add them in. They can, you know,
Right.
make a motion for each one they wanna add in, cause I think there'll be difference of opinion on which
Right.
ones are more important. I mean, some people will wanna do the deeds books and others will wanna
Right.
do something else, so, I think giving them that option, but we've given them the absolutely essential that needs to be done in the next couple of years, and, I think that's a good place to start.
So we'll take this sheet, and just add in the pricing.
Yeah, I'll do
We'll,
that right away.
we'll take this sheet, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Commissioner, we'll add in
Yeah, yeah.
we'll add in the cost.
And the cost.
Because my understanding is
And the contingency been stripped out,
there'll be the notice for the meeting. I mean, that's already gone to the paper.
which is another thing they wanted. I mean, Newton wanted that. He wanted the contingency stripped out. Newton-
Now, well, my rationale.
And that's explained.
That's explained in here, and my rationale for stripping the contingency out is because it's only a 2-year,
It's only 2 years, right, right.
you know, I mean, we say it's 24, 25, 26, but I mean,
Sure.
we're already at October,
Right,
you know, so we're not really, you know, by the time there's a vote on this, we're almost into October. So it's really
Yeah, like a
just 2
16,
years
yeah, 16, 18
it's not
months.
even a full 3 year.
Right. It's only,
It's only gonna cover two.
2 years and then a quarter.
Yeah, and 2 years goes by very
Yeah,
quickly.
don't we know that? All right, well, let's do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, I mean, because there's, the notices in the paper, going into the paper, I think that's published sometime next week. Janet took care of that before she went on vacation. When she returns, I mean, I'll have everything ready for her, but it will be the physical notice that will go to everybody, the revised CIP and the explanation with the dollar amounts.
So
that'll go to
what we're
everybody.
gonna send to the delegation is gonna match the newspaper. And,
Yeah,
and they can make whatever changes they wanna make.
Yeah, and the revised motion that they always want.
So you can have mine too.
Okay.
I just have one other thing, Mr. Chairman. Oh, I'm sorry, do you have more? I
Am I
didn't,
limited to just one question?
no, ma'am, no, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, am I limited to just one question? One of the things that I was very impressed with was, over at Riverside, the lady who did all of that incontinence work, and at the end of the day, as I understand it, over the course of a year, we're gonna save $65,000. Okay, so as I understand it, that's a line item within the overall county budget. So if we don't expend that full line item, where does that money actually go?
It lapses the surplus.
It lapses to the unassigned fund balance.
Surplus.
Yeah, surplus.
What's the difference between surplus and unassigned fund?
Diana,
balance?
let's-
Surplus is the result of the current year budget. And so there's surplus, but you have to understand, it lapses to surplus, there may be other line items that are overspent. So overall surplus at the end of the year is a calculation of, your under expenditures and your over expenditures.
Okay,
And you're under revenue.
Yes,
and
And
can,
then your
And your own.
unassigned fund balance is the sum of surpluses that have existed over the
yeah,
years.
it's cumulative
It's
over
cumulative.
years.
gotcha. Okay, and can you move money from one line item to another?
No, we don't do that. We
Oh.
identify items to the delegation at the executive committee meeting.
Right.
And, we don't move money from one item to
But
another.
the executive committee can move
Absolutely.
line items from.
Yes, they absolutely can.
Okay. All right, okay, I'm thinking,
You think,
Well, we're thinking out this other thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just so you know that we did receive some correspondence to the Strafford County mailbox. And that piece of correspondence, raised some concerns about the awarding of the, warming shelter, bid.
yeah,
We don't really have anything to do with that. We're simply the fiscal agent.
right,
So my humble suggestion, Mr. Chairman, is I'll answer. This just came, September 11th, yesterday. So I'd like to answer, this person simply by saying we have forwarded their correspondence to the, people that make the decision about the award of the warming shelter. And that right now, it's still out to bid.
they're still at the bid, right?
And that we will forward, this person's concerns to them.
I received a number of calls.
who actually makes them?
The cities.
Individual city, that's what I want.
Well,
I received some
cooperative.
calls.
And then you guys are just the fiduciary.
Yeah.
for-
Yeah, we were able to acquire more money because we could lump everything together than each individual city would have acquired. So it was smarter for us to be the fiduciary because we could get, there'd be more money available. We don't keep any of that money. And we just distribute it, or it's available for the 3 cities to use.
There was a comment in the press that was made yesterday or the day before about the fact that the last vendor only had 2 volunteers working in there, which is not accurate.
Yeah, I
none
think
of
that,
that's
I think some of that is reflected in here.
Right, and that's why, part of that got generated, because they didn't understand what happened to the money, because that newspaper article said there was only 2 volunteers running the place, which is absolutely ridiculous, that's not even close to being accurate.
Well,
And they've made a bunch of, the people made assumptions that, the directors took all the money and put it in their pocket.
when I visited, to carry out our fiduciary responsibility, they had a whole bunch of volunteers,
Yeah.
when I visited.
Right, but they also had paid staff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just talking about the volunteer piece.
Right, yeah, but the article said there was only 2 volunteers, and there was no paid staff.
I
What
will,
are you talking about? I mean,
but we'll forward this anyway to, it's not up to us because we're just a fiduciary. It's not up to us to answer this. I will
That's right.
simply answer it by saying that we forwarded it to the
Yeah.
cities. We'll ultimately make the decision.
Well, I'll just confess that I did see something on Facebook and I commented, it was pending when I left home. And I did clarify that you as the county commissioners were the fiduciary. And that because there was some kind of interesting comments that were made that, we'll never know where the money was spent.
Yeah.
And I said that that was public comment and that they could contact the county commissioner's office to get the breakdown because you guys gave it to me. It's public information. So, I hate when people put that kind of stuff out there and not know where to go for the actual information. So I'm just confessing that that's what I said.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it is all a matter of public record, so it's not. And probably 80% of the money was spent on staff.
And also, Mr. Chairman, we have, the state reviews that.
Right.
It's not just
Correct.
us.
Not
The
just
state
us.
reviews that because if they're not satisfied, they're not gonna give us
the money.
They're gonna give us the money. It's really pretty.
Well, before we got the money, we had to provide.
Right,
That's what I mean. We have to provide all that information.
All righty. So we good for now, everyone? All righty. So let's have a motion moving it on public.
There's a motion to move on, so just as in personally.
Okay.
Contract negotiations.
All righty, can Stephanie move a second?